Everyone, it's Lin Bouthillier from linbouthillier.com. I'm a certified trauma recovery coach, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Monogamous at 13. Today is it's February 1st, 2025, and I will be speaking today about the tragedies that have taken place this week. And I forgot, I always ask my viewers and my clients to ground themselves when we're discussing traumatic issues, traumatic events, feelings that are resulted from trauma, and anytime we're doing any of our recovery work. So I forgot to do that. I have to grab one real quick right here out of my basket. I must have a grounding tool, and I'm so sorry. I forgot. So what I'm going to do is speak a little bit with you, just having a little dialogue about the feelings that so many of us are experiencing right now. And as a trauma coach, any time that there has been a major disaster or a series of disasters, the first thing we begin to ask ourselves is the giant question. The question is why? We don't know. We simply live in a world where things that are unexplainable happen, and things that are shocking and horrifying and painful and terrifying, traumatizing, either expected or unexpected, occur. And my big question is, what could a trauma coach say in a video that could land in the ears of another person out in the world? What could I say to give them something in a moment like this? And the only thing that I can come up with is to kindly and compassionately remind people that these are the times when we most need to connect to our body. How ironic that I forgot to pick up my grounding tool when that's such an important message. These are the times that we need to connect to our body. Why would I say that? It's because our body is where our feelings reside. They reside nowhere else. And someone recently told me that our feelings are the most real thing that we will ever experience. So the two things that we could do for ourselves right now, in addition to honoring the losses that have taken place, honoring the people who are in the helping professions, honoring the people who run towards disaster rather than run away from it. And I'll pause here to say that every single time something like this happens, the kindest, the most compassionate, the most helpful people want to run towards it and help when they don't have qualifications and credentials to prove that they are maybe off-duty EMS or things like that, or if they're just a concerned citizen. And I know that feeling of people who are bystanders, people who were nearby when it happened, and they want to go and help, and they get turned away. They get told, run, get out of here, go now, you're not authorized to be here. And we see that on little bits and pieces of video, and some of us think, oh, that must hurt. It must hurt to be told, get out of here, when all they want to do is lend a hand and help. That's our first response, many of us, because what are we? We're human beings. We are inherently good. Yes, there are people who do not have conscience. I talk about that frequently. But the greatest population on the planet, approximately 96% of the planet, are people who have conscience, and they are people of love, light, truth, compassion, and human decency. So at a time when we see a tragedy anywhere on the globe, either inside or outside of the United States, when we see something happen that is absolutely tragic, our first response is, I'm with you. My heart's with you. I want to help. And maybe one of the ways that we can help in this situation without being anywhere near it is to just say, I'm a human being. I feel this. I am really, really feeling this right now. I feel it for myself because I feel the pain of what has happened. But I'm also recognizing that others are in pain. I can honor my feelings because they're in my body, nowhere else. And I can ask my body this question: what are you trying to tell me? If I actually feel ache in the region of my heart over this, what is that telling me? What is my body telling me? If I begin to experience headaches or jaw clenching, or if I can't sleep, or if I don't want to eat, what is my body communicating to me? My body talks to me constantly. But one of the best things that we can do for ourselves is recognize my body feels. My feelings are in my body. And this is how I know how I'm doing. I know it sounds redundant. Trauma coaches often struggle with that feeling of, I sound redundant right now. I sound like I'm saying something that is so, for lack of better expression, dumbed down. And you might have people who are watching your video or client with you, or if you're in a group setting with a group of clients, you might feel like people are saying or thinking, yeah, duh, we know this already. Of course we all know it. The question is, are we listening to it? The question is, am I giving myself the kindness and compassion that I deserve by connecting my mind to my body and listening to what my body is telling me? So when my body is telling me with things like, let me use the example of people who are first responders, people who are the family members that are waiting for information, people who are bystanders, or people who are in any way affected on the ground, either near the vicinity of these horrendous events, or miles and miles away but related to it somehow. The people who are reporting on it, the people who are collecting information, the people who are doing investigations, the people who are the medical police, and all of the government agencies that are involved in the processing of this entire event, start to finish. Both of these tragic events, both in DC and in Philadelphia. All of the individuals affected, no matter how closely or how far, are going to feel these things in their bodies. That is an absolute fact. And what can they do? What can every single individual, what if you're watching my video and you know somebody who was affected by this, or you were directly affected by this? I would love for you to hear me in this moment when I say, it means the world to me that you would take the very best, most compassionate care of yourself. Because just like the oxygen in the airplane, and I don't mean to make a bad metaphor right now, I'm sorry, but when we have the oxygen in the airplane and we're instructed by the flight crew, we must always put our oxygen on first so that we can help others in the event of an emergency. Well, that's very, very true of us on the ground. It's a very old cliche expression, but it's really accurate to the situation. When we are dealing with anything stressful, we must metaphorically put our oxygen on first so that we can continue on for our purpose, for what needs to be done, for what way we can support ourselves, the way we can support another person. And for some of you, it might be just going to your place of worship and spending time with people who are trying to process this. If you're in a spiritual community of any kind, any any religious or spiritual community whatsoever, then maybe your purpose is to go there and just provide a safe space and provide someone who listens attentively without interruption while someone speaks about what they're feeling so they can process it through. Because yes, we are a triumvirate being. We're a spiritual being, we're a physical being, and we are a mind. Okay? We refer to ourselves as mind, body, and soul. And so we honor these parts and we honor the way that we're feeling. And there was another point that I wanted to make besides excellent self-care through this, being compassionate with ourselves and being compassionate with others. The other point that I wanted to make about it is that we're going to be going through some collective pain as a nation and our own individual pain for whatever way we were affected by this. The nation obviously is in mourning at this time, in shock and in mourning. And I wanted to remind all of you that we do not need to have a close tie to this set of circumstances and these tragic events in order to feel grief. Grief is not just for the people who have lost a loved one in this situation. The people who have witnessed it, the people who are reporting it, the people who are first responders, everybody is going to be processing their own grief. And I found out in my own personal life, you can even need grief counseling just for the loss of a relationship. The person's alive and well, and you could still need grief counseling. I want to urge people, if there's anything that gives you the feeling that life is interrupted and that you don't feel as though you're processing through your grief, every person will feel grief over this. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I keep on saying it. It's not just for the people who were up close. It's not for the people who are just, it's not going to affect the people, how do I say this? Just the people who have lost loved ones. We have all experienced a tragedy. We have all been traumatized by this. So we can safely say it is beautiful self-care for ourselves to pay attention and notice how we feel, what comes up for us, what is my body telling me. And if a little bit of time goes by and it's not processing through, it's not just softening and easing a little bit at a time, and we get to a point afterwards where we feel my eating is interrupted, my sleeping is interrupted, my socializing is interrupted, my work is interrupted, my ability to do my self-care is interrupted. These are all signs that we would need to experience to give ourselves that moment of reaching out to somebody to help us process our grief and our trauma. A lot of people would say, I'm not so sure that I should be calling somebody and saying that I need grief counseling because this didn't technically happen to me. And we might talk ourselves out of needing that counseling because of that. And I am asking you with kindness and compassion to please recognize that you do not have to have been affected as an immediate family member or first responder. So that's just a really important thing that we can do for ourselves. And when we take the very best care of ourselves, we are honoring we are honoring the memory of the people who were lost. Because when we self-abandon, when we cut ourselves off from others, when we stop fully living and just go into a state of, I don't feel good and I don't know what to do. Connection to self, connection to others, connection to our environment, connection to community, connection to the world, and connection to the universe are vitally important. And that is how we honor ourselves and others, by being the highest, best, healthiest iteration of ourselves that we could ever be. And the last thing is, if you would be so kind, and I know that all of you are, if you could please notice what's coming up for people around you. If they seem to be needing support, you can tell them it's okay to cry, it's okay to grieve, it's okay to express your emotions, and I'm here to listen if you need to speak about it. If you just need one dependable, trustworthy person who can keep confidentiality and just be there for you and to support you in every way needed, that we would be there for each other to do that. Because it's one of the most important things that we could ever do for another person, is to say, you're safe with me, I hear you, I feel you, you matter, and I care. I care what you're going through, I care how you feel. I'm a safe person that you can trust to speak to. And for some people, that will make all the difference. It will absolutely help them to be able to keep putting one foot in front of the other and to keep going on and to heal the wounds that they've received from the past events of this week. And sadly, I do need to add, for some, it could be a cumulative thing. It could be this on top of whatever else they have been experiencing in their life. As always, we can accumulate trauma over time. And so the person that you're speaking to might not have healed previous wounds. And for you to reach out at this time and to just give them that message, I'm here if you need to talk, will be an enormous help for them. The last thing that I wanted to say is, if you see that someone is suffering greatly through this, and a little bit of time goes by and it's just really interruptive in their life, it is gentle and compassionate and kind to say, if you want me to sit with you while you reach out for help to a counselor, a therapist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a grief group, a person who does one-on-one grief counseling, a trauma recovery coach, anyone that you would like to speak to, if you want me to sit with you while you make that phone call, I will sit with you and be your strength with you, not for you, but with you. I will be with you in strength and in solidarity and in compassion and love while you take those steps to get that help if you need it. Because many of us really, really, really need to feel that someone else can support us through doing that step if the first step feels difficult. So we can use our intuition and we can know what we know about that person and watch for the signals if they're having a little bit of trouble and they need someone to help them through this difficult time. So we're all leaning on each other. We're all being supports to one another, and we're all processing it in our own way. And there is no one individual correct way to process our trauma and our grief. It's as individual as our fingerprints in our retinas. So we can't get it wrong. It's virtually impossible to do it wrong. And it is massively likely that we can heal. We absolutely can heal. So sometimes I like to speak to my viewers about music. And this would be a really good time for us to make a little time to listen to things that are uplifting. And I don't mean to make our bad feelings blown out of the room like it's a giant industrial fan. Just take the grief and the pain and everything. Let's just get rid of it and blow it out of the room. I'm not speaking about that. I'm talking about listening to music that helps us honor the feelings. And one of the best things that we can do is cry. There are enzymes in our tears that need to be purged from our body. That's why we have parts that cry. It's why we have tear ducts. It's why those enzymes and hormones and body chemicals exist in our system, so that we can release them out of the body. And part of our trauma recovery and our grief recovery, our grief processing, our sadness, processing our frustration, can come from crying. And so when an individual needs to cry, the best thing that we can do is tell them there is no shame in crying. If we weren't supposed to cry, we wouldn't have the parts that cry. And when we cry, one of the best things we can do, if we're crying hard, I mean really, really that crying from your very soul, from every cell of your body type of crying, when we're doing that level of crying, we need to ask ourselves, could I cry even harder? Is it possible for me to cry even harder? And if it is, if we do feel that it's possible to do that, then go ahead and do it. That is the best thing we can, it's the healthiest thing. It is the most cathartic thing that we can do for ourselves, is to do deep, deep, deep mournful crying when we are feeling our grief. Because the more we get it out, the more the body is not going to hold on to that level of pain. Now, some people might say, if this came into your thoughts, which is, but I'm supposed to carry that level of pain because it would be dishonoring the deceased or the injured or the affected. It would be dishonoring them if I let go of that pain. I'm not supposed to feel good at a time like this. Well, there's some validity to that feeling. Excuse me for just one moment. I myself am having trouble stopping crying today. There's some validity to that feeling. It's a very, very common feeling in grief and trauma, which is that I shouldn't feel good while other people are feeling so bad. So if I cry out all of my grief and then I feel good, then I'm going to walk around feeling somewhat guilty, because shouldn't I still be crying? It's the most natural question in the world. And our love for our neighbor, for our family member, for our community, for all the people who run in when the bad things happen, we're not dishonoring them by feeling our wellness. They do not expect us, they do not want us to be harming ourselves by suppressing feelings. Because when our family needs us, when our community needs us, when our friends need us, when we go into work and we work in, and I worked in emergency for years, and so I can tell you this from my own experience. The people that we're going to work to serve and to work with and to work for, they need us to be well. They need us to honor our feelings, and they need us to be, as I've already said in this video, the healthiest, highest, best iteration of ourselves that we could ever be. That's the way we honor everyone. I hope this discussion has helped. I've spoken about a musician, a songwriter, a performer from Australia, and her name is Angie McMahon. And I only discovered her about 6 months ago or so. And I was just absolutely amazed at her beautiful, beautiful body of work with her music. And she revealed that her favorite song in the world, it's kind of funny because it's in my list of top 3 songs. I don't have a favorite song, but I have a top list of 3. And one of them is Silver Springs by Fleetwood Mac, written by Stevie Nicks. And she did a beautiful cover of that song. And if you get a chance to listen to it, it's just simply gorgeous. And I don't know if it appears on any of her CDs, but you can look it up on YouTube. So you just look up Angie McMahon, Silver Springs, and it's a beautiful, the cliche phrase of hauntingly beautiful is so overused in our world, but that's the best words to describe it. But I'd like to speak about a different song from Angie McMahon, because Angie McMahon is masterful at writing lyrics that help people to understand. She really connects to people who've experienced the deepest sadness, people who experience depression, people who experience anxiety, people who experience just wanting to stop, people who just don't want to feel anymore because it's just too painful. But in her music, she reveals how she came back from those feelings, and honoring those feelings in her work has helped people to connect with her in a way that's inexplicable. So if you watch video of her performing live, the people are so connected to her and her band while they're performing. But she has a song that's called Divine Fault Line. And I'm not going to read the entire thing to you, but I'll just read parts of it. It starts like this. I'm learning to love my skin. I'm learning to dive right in. I think it's time to sweep the eggshells clean. I'm starting to dance again. I'm starting to use my hands again. And out of the headwind, I'm hearing the siren saying, don't get cold feet once it gets steep. The next part, I'm sorry, this just kind of moves me to tears, and I don't often cry in my videos, but sometimes it's so hard not to. And I'm not wanting to cry right now so that I can speak. I do want to honor the feelings. So the next part says, I've been so slow and trepidatious and not knowing if I could make it. Cut my body off from itself. Got no water left in the well. The part that jumps out to me immediately as a trauma professional is cut my body off from itself, because what she's referring to, I have no doubt in my mind, what she's referring to, and we hear this all the time as trauma coaches, is that people disconnect from their body. Why? Because that's where the feelings are. They can be nowhere else. And when the feelings get overwhelming, we have a way of dissociating from the body. And so when we speak about when we dissociate, that means my mind is dissociating from my body, and it can also it can dissociate from our immediate surroundings. But the opposite of disconnecting from our body is to engage with every one of our senses. That's how we come back. We begin to really use our senses. So there is a wonderful message in this song, and it does mention, I just want to give a trigger warning. If you do listen to this song, it does contain the F word, which could be offensive to some people, and it does mention the feeling of wanting to die. And that was part of, as I said, it was part of her comeback from her depression, was recognizing that and honoring that feeling, and then knowing what to do to proceed forward. That's how come the first words of the song are so beautiful, where she's explaining that she's learning to love herself more, and she's starting to use her hands, and she's starting to dance again, and that she's hearing things from her inner being that are telling her this is how we're going to proceed forward. We're going to recognize these things and we're going to move forward. And so and at the end of the song, it's a very hypnotic song, and at the end of it, it says, "And for the sake of not holding on to things, I'm going headlong in." And that's just the end of the song, a repetition of that. And for the sake of not holding on to things, and for the sake of not holding on to things, and for the sake of not holding on to things, is how the song ends. But isn't that really a beautiful concept of not holding on to things? We can experience, we can feel it, we can process it, but it does not have to get stuck in here. And a long time ago, when I first started making videos, I was saying to my viewers, I had to make a decision a long time ago. And the question was very simple. Do I want to myself to be, do I want to be a catcher's mitt? Or do I want to be a soccer net? Which would feel better to me? And I knew right away, I want to be a soccer net. I want to let things come through me and go out the other side. I want things to not get trapped in here. I want to be the soccer net as opposed to the catcher's mitt, because then I can process and have things come in, be processed, and leave. Now, that doesn't mean that I won't hold on to feelings and I won't hold on to memories and things like that that are important for me to hold on to. That it doesn't mean I can't do that. But it means the toxic things, it means the things that are just excruciatingly painful, they get in and they're processed, and then it's okay to let go. And so that's why the lyric of, and for the sake of not holding on to things, and it just was such a beautiful line. For the sake of not holding on to things, I'm going headlong in. And I take that to mean I'm processing it. I'm gonna look at everything that's there. I'm gonna process it, but I'm not gonna hold on to it. And one last thing, one of the most beautiful things that we could ever hold on to, no one has to be reminded to do. The precious memories the beautiful feelings, the memory of a person who's no longer here. We're not talking about pitching those things. Those are what we hold on to. Those are what we hold on to, and those give us strength. And today, in the aftermath of what has happened with 2 deadly plane crashes in 2 American communities this week, I truly hope that everyone that's affected will just hold on to those beautiful memories and remember that our feelings are the most real thing that we will ever have. So thank you so much for joining me for this discussion today. I hope that because of the nature of the discussion that you'll give yourself beautiful self-care all day long and notice what comes up for you in your body, where you feel your feelings. Honor the feelings and use your senses if you feel that you're being triggered into an autonomic nervous system response. And the answer to that, I will always say again and again and again and again and again: self-care. Use your senses and honor the feelings. If you're interested in working with me as your certified trauma recovery coach, I am accepting new clients. You can reach me by phone, 716-994-3052. My website it's not a great website, and it's going to be rebuilt by a very wonderful person who is an expert at building websites. And so that will be up and coming soon. The website that I have now is still existing, but it is not fantastic, I can tell you that. I wish that I had fixed it a long time ago, but I didn't. And it just needs to be upgraded. And if you want to learn about what I do, you can go to my website, which is linbouthillier.com. But if you want to learn about the concepts of certified trauma recovery coaching, I invite you to go to iaotrc.com, where they have lots of information for you about certified trauma recovery coaches, and they also have a directory of all of their coaches. And if you are interested in working with someone who is not me, but someone who you would feel more is in line with what you need, there's a whole directory of certified trauma recovery coaches there just waiting for you to contact them. So thank you so much. If you have not already, please like the video and put it on any platform that you would like to share it on. Hit the notification bell, leave me comments down below. And if you have not already subscribed, I would be so grateful if you would subscribe to my channel. I finally made it past 1,000 subscribers, and I'm just absolutely grateful to every single viewer who has helped make that happen. So from my heart, I say thank you for every one of you who has subscribed, and for every one of you who have watched this video all the way to the end. I appreciate it so much, and I hope that it has helped you to process what you are feeling and experiencing this week. So I will see you soon. I'll be back to make another video in a few days, and I hope all of you give yourselves the very best self-care, because self-care is never ever selfish. It is absolutely essential to your well-being. So see you next time. Bye everyone.